金系無駄なあがきと申し上げ奉る。意図愚かなり。
確かにあぶれねえな。扉の姉ちゃんの赤だが、窓のあんたはどうだ。
Turning his back to Gertrude, who claimed that leaving through the door was impossible, Battler locked his gaze on Cornelia, who stood in front of the window.
しっかり張れよ、結界とやら。お前、ぶっ飛ぶぞ。
By now, Battler's target was clear. It was Cornelia. It was the window. He was going to smash this closed room from the window. Not expecting to be chosen as the target herself, Cornelia was overawed for just a second, but she quickly regained her composure. On rare occasions, struggling, fleeing witches would directly challenge the barriers Cornelia set up. Such witches were always fighting desperately, on the brink of death.
金系慎んで申し上げる。バトラの標的はあなた、コーネリア。注意申し上げるものなりよ。
意図愚かなり。神よ、この愚かなる子羊を憐れみたまえ。
羊じゃねえ、後ろ宮家当主ってのはな、わしの片翼でもな。その程度の窓で書斎にいつまでも閉じ込めておけると思うんじゃねえぜ。
Starting from a low posture, both silent and supple, Battler ran forward like a white leopard.
まさかこいつは。これは金系、我が赤が破れる道理はなし。そなたの望み叶うことなしと知りたまえ。
Cornelia thrust out both her arms and made a sign. When she did, a red barrier closed in front of Battler.
無駄と申し上げ奉る後ろ宮バトラ。
夏日おばさんがじいさまを逃がしたんじゃねえ。じいさま、夏日おばさんに隠れて自ら抜け出したとしたら。
どうして窓から自分で出るんですか、金蔵が。
このイカれた晩に雨天へ飛び出すくらい酒の座興程度にしかならぬわ、私にとってはな。
でもここ3階ですよ。ありえません。
そなたとて階段を降りるとき1段くらい飛ばすこともあるであろう。金蔵なら3階くらいは
やりかねませんな。
Fucking, I wouldn't put it past it. Oh, this is the most retarded argument ever, but I wouldn't put it past him. He's crazy.
やりかねませんね。
そんなバカな。
Blue cracks appeared in Cornelia's red barrier, and it shattered with a crisp sound. It was all far too quick. It looked almost as though she'd gotten out of the way herself in fear of Battler.
エンドレスナイン、魔法抵抗力エンドレスナイン。
コーネリア様、防げません。退避を。
At the same time the barrier shattered, the window behind Cornelia's back was flung open. The curtains fluttered for just an instant. Though it was all filled with rain, the heavens in the courtyard were spread out in front of them. A fitting exit for an eagle leaping from this closed room.
コーネリア、結界を張り直すのです。よい、上司ドラノール。ここを破ること、断じて叶わぬと知りたまえ。
Cornelia quickly returned to her senses and set up another red barrier. However, this was the last one.
金系、慎んで申し上げ奉る。なれば金蔵の窓よりの脱出を仮に認めようぞ。ならば外より閉められる窓の施錠はいかようにしたのか。窓は内側より施錠されていた。
Oh, this one's easy, come on!
ダメだな。
ああ、全然ダメだ。
Kinzo and Battler grinned. Did she think this feeble rat could block the charge of Battler and Kinzo, the two family heads?
じい様が窓より飛び出した後、夏日おばさんはちょっとした隙間風に気づいただろうさ。そして窓辺に近づき、窓が開きっぱなしになっていたことに気づき、慌てて閉めて施錠したんだ。
私がまさか窓から抜け出したなど夏日は想像。
ああ、だから夏日おばさん、じい様はベッドで寝ていると思ったのは当然のことなんだ。
Now that Battler had found the answer, the red barrier was more fragile than thin glass. The red magical wall of certainty had been smashed again so easily that it disgraced the name of certainty itself. And I, with my namesake of LambdadeltaYT, can't stand for that. Unbelievable, right? That barrier was more firm than any Renova had ever used against Jessica. And yet it had been destroyed so easily. Though Battler was rushing fiercely and had almost reached Cornelia, she didn't step aside. Her steel spirit, worthy of the name Eiserne Jungfrau, didn't allow her to step aside. She took a charm from her pocket, placed it against the thin air and made a sign. Then, not red, but blue burned there. Though it was far more frail than the red barrier, it was her last method of resistance.
ここは通さぬ通さぬ。緊急されどここは3階。窓よりいかにして翼なき人間が逃れるというのか。ここは通さぬ通さぬ。それを知りたまえ。
ぐだぐだうるさいわ。そこで見ておれ。
これがその答えだ。
Battler jumped. He burst through Cornelia and her blue barrier, knocked him away, and his body flew out the window through the darkness of the rainy sky. The fragments of the blue barrier scattered, beautifully adorning the surrounding air. The closed room had been smashed open. Battler flew out of the mansion. Through the sky above the rainy courtyard, all the raindrops became small round gems and were scattered through the air. Battler flew across the treasure box world, that exquisite stormy sky, through the countless gems of rain that filled it. In the sky over the world frozen in time, Atlano and Battler faced each other. If Battler, who had smashed and flown out the window, was like a knight leaping off a white horse, then Atlano was another knight who floated in the air waiting for him. In the air above the courtyard, surrounded by the Ushiromiya mansion and frozen in time, the true new head of the Ushiromiya family and the disciple of heaven who would test him crossed paths.
見事です。たとえあなたが中庭に落ち生きようが死のうが、金蔵に密室が打ち破れたことに変わりはない。命を捨てて飛んだあなたこそ殉教者。よくぞ我らの密室結界を打ち破ってみせました。あっぱれです、後ろ宮バトラー。されど我こそは首席異端審問官ドラノルエノックス。みすみすと逃すことはできません。最後に我がたちにあなたと交える栄誉を与えたまえ。
ああ、歓迎してやら。このゲーム案外甘くないぜ。
In this world where the gems of rain fell slowly like large snowflakes on a snowy field, Atlano and Battler slowly crossed paths. It seemed slow, and yet it happened in a flash. Their gazes crossed and clashed like lightning. Night confronted night head on, and everything would be settled with a single strike. Blue and red crossed paths.
書斎内に夏日の死角が存在することがあらかじめ示されましたが、示されていないならばこの推理は許されません。ノックス第8条、提示されない手がかりでの解決を禁ず。
Delanor's double strike with both the blue and red blades reached out to slice Battler, and failed. Those long swords, which had never lost over the course of 100 battles, cut through empty air.
書斎に入った時、その構造についてはっきりと研究してるぜ。お前にくだぜ、お嬢さん。
For the first time, an expression showed on Delanor's face. It was a sudden smile. She had known about that long before. However, she still couldn't let him escape without attempting that single strike. Not even with her reputation as an inquisitor of heresy on the line. She still crossed swords with Battler, even though she knew it would fail.
知っていましたけど、あなたのこの答えはノックス第8条に抵触しません。
恨むなよ、暗いね。
いざ来たれ。
In Battler's hand was a blade that shone red. That blade edged out the red truth. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Kinzo's study was a small villa he had created inside the mansion. A study, a library, a place to sleep, and a bathroom and washroom. It was divided into multiple rooms. That has already been shown. And it suggests that there could have been a blind spot somewhere within the room. Without any mercy, no, without any reluctance, which would have been dishonorable, the sword of red truth cut into Delanor. It cut a beautiful hemisphere through the countless gems of rain that filled the sky. Time exploded into life. Both of them fell through the courtyard. One drifted down, the other tumbled through the air. Then there was a soft sound and a dull thud. The first was the sound of Battler landing gently in the courtyard. The second was the sound of Delanor crashing down. After crouching down for a while, Battler slowly stood up. Though he had jumped down from the third floor, he had landed as lightly as though he had merely jumped over a fence. Beato leaned out of the study window, looking to see if the supposedly wingless Battler had landed safely.
Beato! 来い! 飛べ! その窓が俺たちの出口の扉だ! だから飛べ! お前は密室に閉じ込められてるような魔女じゃないだろうが!
The study was no longer a closed room. She could jump from here, escape from here. By now the closed room that had threatened to capture the witch and suffocate her had been destroyed.
心臓も
行け。バトラーが答えを見せた時点でわしの魂はすでにこの密室を逃れておる。
Kinzo's form became a cloud of gold butterflies and disappeared. The closed room barrier had dissolved, and the power that denies magic had scattered. Beata ran towards the window. That was the only exit from the closed room of this witch hunt. After glancing at the Chiesta sisters and the subordinates of the Inquisitor of Heresy, she readied her wound-covered body and ran towards the window, just like Battler had done. She looked like Cinderella running as she heard the bell toll.
逃がすもんですか、ベアトリーチェ、魔女です。
Erica flew at Beato, trying to latch onto Beato as she dashed, but it was like trying to catch smoke, and she landed face first on the floor. There's no way a human could catch a witch. For one such as her, without love, even touching Beato was impossible.
シスタ隊、魔女を撃って、撃ち殺して。
照準抵触せず、八方不可、近景。バトラの青き真実を防げる結界の準備、当方になしなりえ。
Both Chester00 and Gertrude spoke with unbelievably calm voices.
誰にも止められないの。バトラも、金蔵も、ベアトリーチェも。こいつらが逃げ出したら、私の密室が、推理が、この探偵フルドエリカが。
Erica crouched, screaming and clutching at her head. That's how I like them.
天下の黄金の魔女がジジイのカビ臭い書斎ごときで打ち破られてるんじゃねえ。まだ第一の番だろうが、新参どもにお前のゲームが甘くないってことを思い知らせてやれ。
Just like Battler, Beato also flew. She drifted down through the rain treasure box world into Battler's chest. Battler caught her with both arms as though catching a feather from an angel. It was like a knight catching a princess who had been locked up in a tower. Like a beautiful picture of a scene in some fairy tale.
やっばい、惚れたわ。後ろ宮家の当主ってこういうやつらばっかなの？
後宮金蔵の破天荒を記せは、書斎の魔導書の数に負けぬ長い波乱の物語が書けるでしょうが、その次の当主の物語も記す価値が大いにありそうだ。いえいえ、もう記しておりますと。それはもう長い長い物語に。
The demons giggled on top of the roof, holding umbrellas. Then they quietly looked down over the two in the courtyard.
お前やるな。
お前のゲームで何回鍛えられたと思ってんだよ。
In shock, Beato actually praised Battler as he held her in his arms. Battler laughed in his usual carefree way.
こんなことがありえない、ありえない。
Erica looked down from the window and clenched her teeth, still clutching at her head. Still holding Beato in his arms, Battler grinned back.
エリカ、
何ですか？
黄金の魔女の謎はお前にはくれてやらねえ。俺が解く。こいつはな、俺たち二人のものなんだよ。ま、ベアと。
うん、わらわの謎は
そう。
When Battler laughed evilly, Beato's face turned uncharacteristically red. But even so, she spoke while laughing loudly.
わらわの謎はそなただけのものだ。後ろ宮バトラー、他の誰にも解かせてはやらぬ。
こいつめ、 ふざけたこと言いやがって。
My face is really sad considering that no girl will ever say something like this to me. Battler snorted, amused that Beato had said something so out of character. And, still holding Beato in his arms, he spun around in a kind of waltz. The falling gems of rain celebrated their victory over this trial.
3階の窓から飛び降りて無事飛び降りて密室を脱出。ふざけてます。こんなの推理じゃない。めちゃくちゃです。
If Battler had at least been seriously injured and writhing in the mud, Erika might still have had some ground to stand on. She might have been able to claim that Kinzo couldn't have jumped down with his old body and gotten away unscathed. However, Battler stood calmly in the courtyard, looking up at Erika with the dignity of the victor.
皆さん、もう一度聞きますけど、こんなのありえませんよね。人間が3階の窓から飛び降りて平然と降り立つなんて。そうでしょみんな。ましてや老体の金蔵さんが3階から飛び降りてみせるなんて、こんなの推理じゃない。
Erika tried to get everyone's agreement and somehow turn things around. But their responses were no different from how they'd been a short while ago.
いや、金蔵さんならありえますな。
親父ならやりかねね
え。お父様だものね。
武勇伝の王よ人や。それくらいじゃ驚きもせんで。
Suddenly they're all, oh yeah, of course, this makes a lot of sense. Yes, yeah. That's why didn't we come up with this? Oh man, we're so dumb.
あんたたち頭も正気もどうかしてんじゃないですか。
いずれにせよ、あなたの密室議論は完璧ではなかったわね。
I love that Erika sprite. I want to bully it, and I want to kiss it, and then I want to bully it again. Not only the servants, but the family members also agreed. They all agreed that there was nothing strange about Kinzo jumping down from a third floor window. Just who in the world is this Ushiromiya Kinzo person?
まあ60点というところか。若かりし日の金蔵ならもう少し派手にやってみせるぞ。もうひとひねり欲しいところだ。
おお、どの程度にひねる？
そのわらわを抱いたまま飛び降りるくらいはやりかねん。
わかった。次の機会には抱いたまま飛び降りてやるぜ。
やれるものならやってみよう。
Beato's voice grew very faint and she gulped. Then her body suddenly crumbled away into a cloud of gold butterflies. That was because many people had rushed up to the window, and she was being bathed with gazes filled with the anti-magic toxin. Beato's body became invisible to them and melted into the air. So to their eyes, it appeared that Battler was standing all alone out in the courtyard.
Battler! 大丈夫か？
ご無事そうです。よかった。敗北です。では書斎の彼らのためにも私にとどめを。あの書斎の密室でいかにして金蔵が逃れたのか、その最後の青き真実を。
There was no pain in Delano's expression. Pleasure and pain never showed up on her face in the first place. However, she was only barely able to rise to her feet using her long sword as a crutch, so it was easy to guess at how heavily she'd been damaged. And, despite her lack of an expression, you could tell that this was a loss she could accept. Battler and Delano turned to face each other.
行くぜ。
いざ来たい。
As though readying herself, Lano quietly closed her eyes, but she still stood tall and maintained her air of dignity.
これが俺の青き真実だ。
The blue power gathered. Battler slowly approached Lanor. Then he faced the rainy sky and yelled out the blue truth.
後宮金蔵は夏日おばさんの目を盗み、窓より書斎を脱出した。夏日おばさんはそれに気づかず窓を施錠したんだ。これで夏日おばさんが23時にじい様の就寝を見届け、扉のレシート封印と窓の内側からの施錠を矛盾させずにじい様は書斎を脱出できる。実際に脱出可能であることはこの俺が実証した通り。以上でこの戦いを決着する。
The blue wedge flashed through the courtyard along with a blue bolt of lightning, roaring down towards Lanor's forehead as she stared up at the sky.
レアとのゲームは甘くねえぜ。ミステリーのお約束が通じるかどうかも怪しい。立ち筋は悪くねえが、もう少しお頭を柔らかくすることだぜ。
A massive blue wedge that looked like a pillar was above Lanor's forehead, and had stopped with its tip just slightly touching her. That's weirdly sexual, Battler. It didn't run her through. It made no mark larger than being poked with a pencil. Oh god, poor boy. When Battler snapped his fingers, the blue wedge shattered and became a shower of translucent gems. No, drops of rain that poured down over the courtyard. But Lanor sat down in a dazed sort of way. Amidst the thunder and rain, the successor to the Ushiromiya family headship faced the people staring down from the study and spread his arms wide.
ようこそ俺とベアと歓迎するぜウルドエリカ。
見たわ、後ろ宮バトラー、グッドだわ、実にグッドだわ。食らい尽くしてやる魔女の謎とやらをね。腹渡の奥の奥まで生きながらにね。
Battler and Beato both looked calmly up at Erika, who couldn't contain her evil laugh.